far as I'm concerned, wrestling and swimming are the two hardest sports in existence.
Oh, yeah.
You've got to be in shape.
Well, and it's a one-on-one. I like that.
And it's all or nothing.
Yeah, yeah.
Good evening, everyone, and Happy New Year. Welcome to the Sedro-Woolley City Council. I am going to open up this meeting. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'll begin with roll call. Councilwoman Diamond has asked to be excused. She is attending a family event tonight, and if there's no objection, we will do that. Moving along, Councilman Loy,
Here.
Councilwoman Kesty,
Present?
Councilman Henderson,
Present.
Councilman Cock. Great timing, Paul. Love it. Councilman Burns
Present.
and Councilman Lavaca.
Present.
Excellent. Okay, looking over the agenda, I'm looking for an approval. Is there someone who's willing to make that motion?
Motion to approve the consent, or approve the agenda.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. So, we have a motion by Councilman Henderson, seconded by Councilwoman Kesty. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Consent agenda, items 1 through 8. Do I
Madam-
have a motion?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to pull number 8 for discussion.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, looking for approval of items 1 through 7.
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve items 1 through 7.
Thank you.
Second.
Agenda.
Thank you. So we have a motion by Councilman Lavaca, seconded by Councilman Henderson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. All right, item number 8, council committees. Go ahead, Councilman Burns.
So I looked at the council guideline, excuse me. I looked at the council handbook, and on page 21, under council committee appointments, at the first meeting of every even year, the mayor shall appoint 2 council members and a council chairperson to each standing committee of the council. Since this is an odd year, and we have this in writing on the council handbook, I was concerned about switching the committees. I know at the first council meeting of last year, Councilmember Diamond had asked, and we confirmed that we were going to do these for 2 years. So that's why I wanted to bring this for discussion.
Right, and you have completed it for 2 years, for those of you in here, and those who came on last year, this is their first year. So you do have prerogative as the council, to go ahead and approve these if you choose. My thought is, and you can do whatever you want here, but my thought is that you have the option here to go ahead with this, or if, for those of you who want to stay on another year, which would give you 3 years on your committee, and for everybody else 2 years, which I think is a good plan as well, you're welcome to do that as well. So whichever your prerogative is.
And I know that question had been asked last year if the assignments would stand for 2 years. So that's why, looking at this especially and
Yeah,
seeing
most
that
of you have
says
been on it for
even
2 years already, yeah.
I think I had one committee change. I know that, I think Councilmember Kesty was the one who got the short end of the stick on not getting any changes. But everyone else, I believe, had gotten at least one change.
Yeah, I think you switched up with Nick. You and Mr. Lavaca switched up on a couple different items. And then the new council members who came in took Glenn Allen, Chuck Owen, and Brendan McGoffin's place. Yes.
Okay.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
I do remember that motion, and I was thinking about that tonight as well. I did get the shorter than the stick, but I do like the new stick, so I wouldn't be opposed to what is presented here tonight, if everyone else is in agreement with it.
Totally up to the council, so.
Yeah, they look good. Thanks for doing that. Yeah.
Mayor.
Yes.
I had a conversation with Charlie today about this, and he kind of made it make sense, because that was my question for him. And so, we'd kind of be, the way it would be, or the way it looks now is we'd kind of just be starting fresh.
And then something to think about too is that there'll be 4 of you who will or will not be running next year. I don't know what the plan is for that, but that means that there'll be 4 positions that will be filled, and we can go ahead and get on schedule next year if you like, which we probably can. Like I said, my only thinking on this was that for those who already have served 2 years, if they want to serve a 3rd year, they can do that. If they don't want to serve a 3rd year and would like to sit on other councils or on other committees, they certainly can do that as well. So like I said, totally up to the council, whatever the council wants to do.
I mean,
Easy, either way.
I'm fine with it as assigned.
Okay.
Sounds like I'm the only one who really liked my assignments before, so,
Hey,
So
Public
be
Works
it.
is fun. It's fun. You'll like it.
okay.
So what I need is a motion either way, whatever y'all want to do.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion to approve the council committees as presented.
All right. Do I have a
Second.
Second? Okay. So we have a motion by Councilwoman Kesty and a second by Councilman Lavaca to approve council committees as assigned. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign?
Aye.
Okay. One dissension, and that's Councilman Burns. All right, thank you. Moving on to reports. So City Administrator Charlie, Mr. Bush?
Thank you, Mayor Johnson, council. No report this evening.
All right, thank you. Council members, Councilman Loy?
I really don't have much, but I went to a meeting over the holidays talking about how the state of Washington in the cost of housing's number 3 in the United States. I never realized it was that expensive.
Yeah.
But they also told us that food is like number 4 in the United States. Everything they brought up in state of Washington is about as high as it gets in the country. And I thought it was too high, but I was never aware of everything's high here. So I think we need to move to Canada. That's all.
All right. Opinion noted. Councilwoman Kesty?
I have nothing tonight, thank
All
you.
right, thank you. Councilman Henderson?
Nothing tonight.
All right, Councilman Cook?
Yes, I saw a story in the Skagit Valley Herald the other day that the site, that the State Energy Facility Site Evaluation Facility, whatever it is taking public comment until Sunday on the Golden Eye BESS facility east of Cedro-Woolley. And this council and the mayor and many other organizations in the county have already strongly opposed this project, which is near a salmon stream and on farmland. So I would encourage anybody who's interested to make a public comment, because the more of those opposed to this, I can't say the less likely it'll happen, but it'll certainly help. Also, it's interesting that there was an excellent story in the Cascadia Daily News, which talked about what a great job, relatively speaking, Skagit County has done to protect farmland. Setting aside farmland, and these are farmers who are actively involved in this program to protect their farms. So I think we need to protect farmland, and on this facility, I think we need to protect our community. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilman Burns?
Tonight, we had a Public Works Committee meeting. I stepped in for Councilmember Lavaca and chaired the meeting. We talked about the 2025 active capital projects that we have going on, proposed code changes for short plating requirements, impact for GFC payment schedules, and private street classifications. We also discussed a procurement process, like grant applications, possibly letting city staff apply for grants without council needing to approve until there's dollars that are going to be expended because they've been approved for that grant. So I want to thank Director Bullock for all that information. Also, I wanted to thank Mayor Johnson for her belief in me. She appointed me to the Skagit Transit Commission, and I will be doing my first meeting next week. So thank you for that. Hope everybody has a Happy New Year. Oh, sorry, one thing. What Paul was talking about, you only have until, I think it's Saturday or Sunday.
Sunday at like 12 something, yeah.
So not a lot of time to make a comment.
And you can do it on, sorry, I don't want to horn, you can do it on that facility whose whole name I probably didn't read out, their website, and they have a little box right up top.
You covered it. Thank you.
Councilman Lavaca.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And thank you, Councilman Burns, for covering today's meeting. We got some late packet material that assigned the meeting, so it wasn't quite in my agenda. Just to kind of touch base a little bit on what Councilman Lloyd said, I went to Hawaii this year, and I was absolutely surprised that the food was cheaper there than where I am. And I was like, I thought everybody said it was going to be more. However, I did do a little bit of looking into Canada, and they're actually more expensive than here. Go figure. So it's a pretty nice place to be. Welcoming in the new year, there's a lot of excitement for opportunity and growth and what we're going to be doing. So I really enjoyed that. I had some discussion with people about one of the things we'll be covering later on in this agenda as far as the Zoom meetings. So I look forward to having a little bit of discussion on that and welcoming in everybody to a brand new season. Thanks.
All right, thank you, everyone. Kind of bear with me, I have a lengthy report tonight. I have about 5 or 6 items. The first one is that the 1st of December, the 911 board, we did go out for a search. When Helen Rasmussen, our director, retired from the Skagit 911 agency, we went out for a search, and we have hired Allison Everbeck. She's from the 911 center up in Bellingham, Whatcom County, and she started her assignment in December. Good things are going to come out of that. I want to extend huge thanks to Chiefs McElrath and Chief Wagner. They both participated in the TDS process that we went through as far as the search and also the multiple interviews. The other thing is that as a representative of Cedar Woolley, I sit on the Skagit Transit Board, and just recently Skagit Transit Board Director Crystal Steinman received news from Representative Larson's office that Skagit Transit has been awarded $19.5 million grant through the RAISE. And RAISE is an acronym for Rebuilding American Structure with Sustainability and Equity. Representative Larson has been very instrumental, as you may know, in bringing lots of funding back here to accomplish great projects in our community, much needed projects, and that benefit everybody within the county. Just to send out a thanks to him again for the $500,000 grant that he gave us, the City of Cedar Woolley, for our Olmsted Park project. For those of you who may not have heard and may want to wish her well, Rachel McDonald, our current librarian, she's tendered her resignation. She has received another wonderful opportunity, and as citizens here, we're very grateful for her leadership that she has shown us here this last year. So we wish Rachel the best. Wanted to make everybody aware that we do have some new hires, and for those of you who haven't had a chance to hear who they are, we have first from the wastewater treatment plant, Raul Gonzalez, and he's also going to be a collection specialist. Nathaniel Davis is our new operating trainer there. We welcome Noah Cook to the PD, and I believe, has he already gone to the training, or not yet?
Not yet. We're hoping February.
Hoping in February, okay. I've had a chance to meet Noah. He's a wonderful guy. And then in Chad Roberts, who completed a 2-year stint as a seasonal maintenance for the City of Cedar Woolley. He has accepted a job offer as a new full-time maintenance operator, effective at the end of last year, so he just started. And also we welcome Cleo Felix. She is part-time, but she is working with the courts. And then last but not least, we need to congratulate our own Councilman Joe Burns, who has accomplished a very distinguished achievement. Joe completed and received his advanced certification of municipal leadership. The Association of Washington Cities, AWC, they work tirelessly on behalf of all municipalities, equipping council members with the knowledge and tools to serve their communities effectively. Regardless of political persuasion, their programs provide invaluable training, offer practical strategies for engaging with the state entities, and maximizing resources for the people of Sedro-Woolley. The Advanced Certificate of Municipal Leadership, it is a very distinguished achievement. It requires over 60 hours of training in a wide range of fields alongside volunteer service to benefit our community. So today, I would like to congratulate Councilman Member Joe Burns on earning this certification. His commitment to serving the people of Sedro-Woolley is exemplified not only by his willingness to go above and beyond, but also his exceptional leadership and dedication. So thank you very much, and congratulations, Joe. I'm going to give you an applause. And then I do have a request from one of the committee members. This comes from Susan Robarge. She is involved with the speech and debate, the NCFCA Christian Speech and Debate program. And she is looking for 2 volunteers. She was hoping that she could get 2 council members to do this. She said she had sent out this email in December. I never saw it. It wasn't till, that it came in. So if you have this, great. But they need 2 people for January 18th, 5 p.m. And her contact number then is on the email. And if you want to reach out to her and let her know. I did say that I would ask to see if anybody might be interested so that she can maybe anticipate somebody. Is there anybody who might be interested on January 18th?
I'll check my calendar.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Henderson. Is there anybody else? I know, that's me too. All right, thank you very much.
Sarah Diamond up for it since she's not here.
Yeah, she'd be good though, wouldn't she? She would be good at that. Yeah, okay, thank you, Councilman Henderson. I'll let Susan know that she can anticipate hearing from you, one way or the other. All right, thank you very much. Okay, then, moving on to public hearing. We are going to do a public hearing right now on Chapters 2.40 and 17.50 of the Sedro-Woolley Municipal Code. It is the street tree regulations. This is ordinance number 209324. This is a second read. Before I turn it over to Ashton, who's going to be leading us through this, just a couple of things. So this is a public hearing. If you have a public comment regarding something other than this hearing, just hang on, because after this public hearing, we will have public comment. But if you have something that you would like to share regarding the street tree ordinance, then when I put that out there, please feel free to come forward. So, and I'll let you know when we're going to do that. Secondly, the way that this public hearing will go is we'll have Ashton share this policy with us, and then I will turn it over to the body here to see if there's anybody who would like to make comment regarding this code. And once that is done, I'll turn it over to the council where they can ask questions or make comments. And at that time, they have the option to vote if they'd like, to make a motion if they like. So that's how this is going to go. So then we'll just begin with you, Ashton. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Council. There's not too many changes to this since the last time you saw it it was November or December. We did receive that attorney-client privileged memo from our legal team that I hope you all had a chance to review. And then we also received 2 comment letters from our state agencies, one from Fish and Wildlife and one from Department of Transportation. They had some pretty minor comments, some slight fixes for some typos, establishing that a washout right-of-way is under their jurisdiction, and then prohibiting tree topping was another major one from Fish and Wildlife to make sure that we're not cutting down our trees senselessly. Other than that, there were no other changes from the initial version that you guys saw last year.
Okay, very good. So if you have completed your presentation, then I'm going to open this up to the public. Is there anybody in the chamber right now who would like to make public comment regarding the Sedro-Woolley Municipal Code street tree regulations? And this is always helpful because I see that Actually, nobody signed up, so probably nobody is interested in doing that. So, and actually seeing none, then I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to the council. Council, if you have any questions or comments that you would like to address with Ashton, now is your time.
I did have a quick question. So if, it's interesting about trees because they're pretty unpredictable, and I've lived here for over 30 years, and maybe it's just me, but it seems like we have more high wind events. So, I mean, do we have an arborist that we can contract with to say, hey, this tree's dangerous?
To my knowledge, we don't have an arborist that we have a contract with right now. I do know that we have somebody that does environmental consulting, but I'm not sure if he's a certified arborist or not. That would be something that we could look into in the future, however.
I just think with these high wind events, it'd be good to at least know who they are in the community, because we had one at Western Washington University, and she's fantastic, and she had looked at all the trees, and it was a summer afternoon, and a group of students were having a class under a tree. They got up and walked away, and a half an hour later, this enormous branch fell right where they were. So you never know.
Okay. All right, thank you. Actually, we do have a comment here by Bill.
So Public Works does have an on-call arborist that we use when we have a suspect danger tree that is in public right-of-way or may affect public right-of-way. Either way, that we do have on retainer, if you will. It's not something that we will, and I would advise doing comprehensively in different things, but certainly as we get comments from the public or comments from our crew as they notice things as they're maintaining our rights of way in our parks, that we will bring in that individual, or I don't know if it's an individual or a team of individuals to give us assessments so we know how to properly take care of them. It's not necessarily cutting a tree down, but sometimes it's thinning it to thin out the wind load or something like that. So we do have active capability, but it's with Public Works, not planning.
Thank you, Director Bullock.
Thank you.
Yes, go ahead, Councilman Henderson.
Thank you. Ashton, so in this section, the care and disposition of existing trees, there's a removal recommended down here that the city does not hold the authority to require removal of trees which are located outside of the public right-of-way. And then it goes on to say, or which cause hazardous or nuisance conditions outside of the public right-of-way, or which do not constitute an immediate danger to public safety or property. So that section is red boxed, and it says removal recommended. Can you touch on a couple of things here? For instance, if we're removing that, does that mean that the city does now hold the authority to remove trees on off of a public right-of-way or on private property?
So the answer is no. The city still does not hold that authority. We discussed this with Nikki, our lawyer, and basically the conclusion that we came up to is this section of text is already inferred in this section right before it. So we're essentially we're being redundant when we add this section of text in, because the city already doesn't have this authority to regulate trees on private property.
Thank you.
And there is a note that does say right below the box, removal recommended of that statement, it looks like. Is that correct?
Yes, that was the official recommendation from Planning Commission at the final public hearing.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Loy?
Yeah, I had a question. I can't find where I read it, but somewhere I read where it talks about trimming trees at 6 feet tall. Is that the new trees that would be planted and you would maintain them at that, or what was that?
I want to say it's 8 feet, because that was the height that we, when we got with Public Works to discuss what the height clearance would be for sidewalks, we wanted to make sure it matched the signs that might be on the opposite side of the sidewalk from the road. That way the overhanging branches and trees do not block the sign from traffic.
And who's responsible for trimming them?
It would be the adjacent property owner.
Thank you.
Councilman Lavaca?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just, we have some trees over by our house, right, and it's on 9, right past Township on Moore, right? And so it's right in front of Cascade School. And the branches hang down really low, and they're right in your head when you're walking by, and me and my wife are pretty small people. So it is nice to kind of have that cleaned up and maintained. So that would be something that would be the property owner, not the city, that would be doing that, even though the branches are hanging over the sidewalk, correct?
Correct. It would be my assumption, though, that the city would have a responsibility to send a notice to provide a clear travel way.
Yeah, I was gonna hit Bill up after a little while. We walk it quite often. I'm like, man, this is kind of weird, but at one point, not a big deal though. Branches are nice. I was just curious.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Kesty.
Thank you. Thank you for all your work on this. I just have one question. So if you live in the older part and the trees are very, very tall up by the sidewalks and the roads, they don't have to be topped down to 8 if they're taller than that, do they?
No, so the 8-foot clearance is for the sidewalk. So it's to make sure that no branches.
Just making sure.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
making sure. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Burns?
I was just going to clarify what Councilmember Lavaca said. If I remember correctly, that would be a code enforcement issue. Would that be right?
Possibly. Typically, it would start as a code enforcement issue, but then we would get our staff involved in that as well. And Public Works, we would ask Public Works to go out and take a look at it, verify the situation, and then send a notice to the property owners.
Thank you.
Yep, go ahead, Councilman Cock.
Just to make sure, I don't remember seeing it in here, the utility lines through any trees or foliage, that's utilities' decision and responsibility, right? Or is that ours?
It would be the adjacent property owners, but the adjacent property owner doesn't have permission to trim those branches when they're within a certain distance of the utility line. I'm not too certain what that distance is, but thank you, Councilman Henderson. So it is the adjacent property owner's responsibility to coordinate with the utility franchise to ensure that those branches are trimmed.
Okay, thank you.
Good enough, you answered it good enough.
Okay, go ahead, Councilman Henderson.
I just touch on what Councilman Cock just asked. Every few years, coming down the streets, there's a tree trimming company that's contracted by Puget Sound Energy to keep everything clear from their lines. So that kind of would help out with that, because they don't want anybody cutting near their power lines. They don't want anybody even looking at them. So they'll keep a lot of that stuff trimmed, and they'll even go a little bit further and help you out, because they're already there with a bucket truck and a wood chipper and stuff like that. So we've had pretty good experiences with that, especially in the older section of town.
Yeah, I'm all for that. If they're willing to do it and save the homeowners the cost, that's great.
Yes, Director Bullock.
Sorry. So that particular piece is covered in our utility franchise ordinance, which gives the communications and PSC, it's usually PSC, the ability to trim trees in order to give protection for anything 600 volts and above. And so, yeah, that's not, it's a sister ordinance or legal authority, but what Councilman Henderson is describing is covered in our franchise ordinances and tree trimming permits that are held by the utilities, adjacent to the responsibility of property owners to keep that lower canopy trimmed properly. That way we don't electrocute people unintentionally.
All right. If there are no more questions or comments, at this time, you do have the option, council, to make motion. Would the council like to make motion on this ordinance?
Yes. I'd make a motion to approve. Let me get the language right.
Second.
Wrong one. I'd make a motion to approve this ordinance. Sorry, I scrolled up too far.
That's okay.
2093-24, adopting amendments to Chapter 12.40 and 17.50 of the Cedar Woolley Municipal Code.
Yeah, to update the trees. Okay, very good. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign? All right, motion carries. Thank you very much. And thank you very much, Ashton. There was a lot of work that went into this, there really was. I had read through it prior to you, all the work that you went into making the changes, the additions, and the edits. Great job, thank you very much.
Thank you. Not all of it goes to me. Some of it goes to Nicole, who covered for me while I was away.
Thank you, Nicole. Okay, nice, good teamwork. Thank you. Okay, moving on to public comment. Okay, so this is, I'm gonna, 6:29, I'm gonna open up public comment. And I do have one person who did sign up. Is that Denise? Yes, okay, Denise Bateman. Yes, please. And on the mic, make sure the blue light is on, and if it's not, just push the gray button and that'll light it up for you.
There we go. Hi. My name is Denise Bateman.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh,
My
go ahead.
apologies. What we ask is that you give your name, so, for the record.
Okay.
Yeah.
My name is Denise Bateman, and I'm speaking for my husband, Robert Bateman, and we're speaking for the Donut Seed and Corny Dog Company. And we had set up, and we thought we had a permit that was approved by the engineering department and the planning department. We came in and we thought that that was what the permit was for. That's what it all read. It was permit, it gave us a permit number. We were paying for a permit number, blah, blah, blah. We thought it was a permit. So we opened on the corner of Eastern Avenue and State Avenue, or State Street. And then we received a phone call. We were there for 4 days. And then we received a phone call from the planning department telling us to shut down immediately. This was very embarrassing and expensive. We needed to throw away a lot of product, and we no longer were bringing anticipated revenue. So apparently what had happened, apparently after reviewing Cedar Woolley Municipal Code subsection 504030B3 regarding mobile food vendors, the disputed part of the code 3 reads as follows: the vehicle must not operate in a single location for more than 10 minutes at a time. For the purpose of this section, one location is defined as one city block. This won't work for many obvious reasons. We can't move every 10 minutes. So we're proposing that the subsection 50403B3 be removed from Cedar Woolley Municipal Code. We'd also like to see I modified. This reads as followed: the vehicle must be legally parked and cannot use more than one single designated parking space. We would like this to be modified to 2 parking spaces, or to be able to purchase 2 permits so that we could have 2 parking spaces. That's it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else for public comment? Okay, hearing none, it is 6:32. I am going to close public comment, and we will move on to the next item, unfinished business, and that is the amendment to Chapter 2.90 and Title 17 of the Cedar Woolley Municipal Code. This is the murals and signs, ordinance number 209124, and this too is a second read. So I believe, Ashton, are you doing this one as well, yes?
I am doing this one as well. Thank you, Madam Mayor. This one is not a public hearing, so I'm not looking for a motion to approve. I'm just looking for some direction, whether City Council would like to pursue a public hearing at the next meeting, or whether they have another option in mind. So the only change to this one is you also received another, actually 2 attorney-client privilege memos from our legal team for this one. There were no changes to the actual ordinance itself from the last read, so nothing has changed since the previous version that you saw.
Okay, go ahead, Councilman Cock.
I don't know if I read it correctly, and I'm also referring to some of our legal advice. So if the city funds a mural, and we would have, the issue is we can't control content, but did I read it right? If we're paying for the mural or the touch-up of the mural, we could have a voice in content. Am I wrong? I don't know if Nikki's on or not.
No, you're correct, Councilmember Cock.
So.
That is correct. If the city is sponsoring a program and funding the public art, then the city does get to choose its art.
Well, a follow-up question. What if the funding is under the auspices of a local organization, a fraternal club, chamber of commerce? Would we still have that same authority since we'd be, maybe we match it or something, give them a little money?
So if it is not a public art program that the city is creating for itself, and it is private art on private property, then that does not fall within the rule that we're talking about, that you can fund your own art and choose your own art.
So theoretically, if we paid for an artist, we would have complete control, for example, over the historic murals in the downtown, whether to, that was an excellent article, by the way, Tom, you know, to touch them up. I didn't know it was a controversy. Touch them up or, you know, paint them over completely. You know, I don't know, there's probably, we had a little money for the Arts Commission. I don't know if that went out of the budget. I don't know if that's anything that could be considered. I'm just throwing it out there because I'd like to see those murals touched up. I don't know how you do it.
Councilman Burns?
If I'm understanding correctly, even if we did that, we're still not able to put restrictions on the content of this. But looking at what Anacortes had done, it looked like it gave a little bit of the city's ability to steer the exterior appearance of buildings so that there is a uniformity. Am I correct in that, Nikki?
That's correct. That falls under the design review guidelines that can't be content-based, but you can put in place design review standards that are not content-based, like materials used, the bulk of the project in comparison to the size of the wall, the quality of the paint, things like that are not content-based regulations through your design standards.
And we're allowed to restrict the substrate for which it's put onto, say, brick or concrete, and set it so that it has to be approved by a director. I understand that we can't put necessarily content-based restrictions on there, but it looked like Anacortes was doing it with their building code in a way that wrapped into the way that their city looks in the downtown area. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay.
And we've talked before about your historic downtown and, you know, your design regulations and utilizing that concept to regulate murals as well.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, go ahead. Councilwoman Kesty?
In reading through all of this, I would like to send it back to the Planning and Business and Development and really go through this with a fine-tooth comb, because I think it, as it stands to be presented, it's just too open-ended. And I think that we've seen downtown and the people's idea of what they think is nice, leaving buildings half-painted and things such as that. I really feel uncomfortable with this being worded the way that it is. And so I want to send it back, dig through it, make sure every T is crossed and every I is dotted, because I don't want to see something like that downtown because we didn't word it right.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, go ahead, Councilman Lavaca.
Yeah, I was under the idea of just tabling this until we had a challenge arise, because I mean we're kind of doing this without even a need. There's been nobody who's wanted to paint some wild stuff, and there's been nobody who's challenged it. We're just like, well, let's look at something we can do to change the code to be more in line with something in case we get sued when we've never been threatened to be sued. That's my personal opinion. I would be down with what Councilwoman Kesty said on maybe bringing this to a committee and letting the committee chew on it for a while and, you know, bounce it around to come up with a good, you know, defined plan if needed, and then bring it back in and see what the planning commission thinks about it, see what a couple other departments think about it, and then being able to bring that back to the council much later on. If something comes up where somebody's really wants to put something on a wall that for whatever reason is controversial or very bright or something like that, and we have to revisit this, we can revisit, right? So I mean, that would be fine with either tabling or putting it to a committee. Which committee would it go to?
I'd like it to go to the Planning and Business Development Committee because it would be kind of encompassing all of that.
Yeah, that would make sense, and then have the committee kick it back when they feel that it's something that they would want to propose before the council. I don't know. That would be my opinion.
I would agree with that approach as well.
Councilman Henderson.
Thank you. I was trying to find where I saw in this entire code change where it said that it didn't go through the planning commission at all. Is that true? I think I read it.
That's true. I believe it's,
Okay.
that's true. I believe it says it in the ordinance.
Okay. And so for a little bit of clarification, I'm on board with having the Planning and Business Development Committee take a closer look at this. One of the questions that I had under the mural subsection 1740.050 for murals, the unredlined version, it goes through an A for history, a B for purpose, and then so the line items and purpose, it looks like the guidance there is to have it all be historical murals, is kind of what I'm reading as I'm going down the thing, like, historical about Cedar Woolley, about Cedar Woolley's logging history and stuff like that. I know that we have some murals, reading the redacted or not redacted, but the replacement section. It's hard to read with a line through it too. Could you just highlight it next time? Anyways, that was to be pictures taken through 1890 to 1930, or depicting any such major historic events happening through that time frame, which is probably why we don't have Tusco, because that was before 1930.
I want Tuscan.
Yeah, I do too. But so if I'm seeing this right, we're going through the purpose of it, and it's designed to be historical, right?
Correct. So actually, I would say the entirety of the purpose subsection, except for one line, I believe, line number 3, already exists in the mural code. Those were purpose statements that were drafted by the previous people that drafted up the murals code. So most of this stuff, it does pertain to the historic aspect of Cedar Woolley, which is what the entire intention of the current murals code. So
Okay,
you're
and then
correct.
can I keep going? I just want to get
yeah, sure,
clarification
sure.
on. So application requirements, that's very basic, no questions there. And then going down procedures, very basic. And then for standards, that's the important part that I want to focus on here, which would be reviewed and approved or denied based on the following standards, 1 through 6. Now, on standards, it doesn't revert back to anything in subsection B of purpose. So it says, okay, this is what it's supposed to be, and then we get to standards, and it says, but you can only be denied based on these yes or no on these 6 standards. So it leaves it very open-ended. So if I wanted to paint a mural of, a Boeing aircraft from 1950 that has nothing to do with Cedar Woolley, or, you see what I'm getting at?
I do.
Yeah.
But placing a restriction that says you can't paint a Boeing aircraft would be a content-based regulation.
Okay, but in the purpose of this, it's saying it needs to be historical in Cedar Woolley, but in the restrictions or the standards, it's saying you can do whatever you want. And then back to, where was it? So the restrictions and standards for color, the use of colors will not detract from any historic structure or group of structures as defined by either local, regional, state, national historic landmark site or structure designation. Could that just say the use of colors will not detract from any historic structure or group of structures, and then you leave the rest of it out? Because then that could be argued that, well, this building's not on the National Register of Historic Places, so we can paint it neon yellow if we want, right?
Yes, that is an option that we could look into. I did think about that possible issue, and that's why I added the local landmark designation. So if city council wanted to designate a certain section of the central business district that was a historic district and that murals had to be, or I don't want to get into legal stuff like that, but if the city council did want to designate a historic section in Cedro-Woolley, then that color section would apply to all the structures within that area.
Because the last one, the crossed out one, everything was supposed to be sepia, right? The color.
Correct.
Is there a color restriction here? Because it says the use of colors will not detract, so whereas we would need a definition for that, right? We would need that to be defined as what's not detracting.
That
I
sounds
agree.
subjective.
Fair.
I think
That sounds subjective to me.
That's most appropriately located within your design standards, right? So if you have definitions in your design standards of the types of color palettes that you should be using in certain areas, then that would come into play when you're looking at this piece of code as well.
Okay, I think that would be, that's a lot of great stuff for the committee that's going to be quarterbacking this to talk about, I think. Thank you.
Councilwoman Kesty?
Oh, I'd just like to say, this is why I really would love for it to go to the committee, because our design standards and then what actually happens, such as neon green downtown, you see how that happens? We really need to look through this.
Councilman LaVaca.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you very much, Austin. I would just, one thing that you had noted caught my attention, and that's designating certain areas as historical to protect criteria for mural painting. That as a default can be dangerous because there's a lot of other things that go into designating something as a historical district, and that's going to be, you know, building codes and restrictions of permits when they want to do a remodel or do anything like that. It's going to impose other things onto the businesses around just because of a mural. So we don't want to use that as a default. We want something that's defined. If we want to do something as a historical district, that should be decided by that community within that area, and not just to protect the mural. It should be something that all the buildings want to do to better their area. And we have a lot of that around here, so, but.
Anyone else? Councilman Lloyd, do you have a comment?
Well, I agree with Councilman Kesty. As far as I know, nobody's standing in line wanting to do one of these murals, so I wouldn't see any hurry, and let the committee see what they can do with it.
Okay. Okay. Does that help at all, Ashton? Give you some direction there?
It
which is
does
what
give
you
me
were looking for?
direction. I'll plan on bringing this to Planning and Business Committee at a future date.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to our new business, and this is for the appointment of Mayor Pro Tem. And at this time, I will take nominations. This is always such an interesting.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I'd like to nominate Alan Henderson.
Okay. Are there any other nominations?
Yes, I'd like to nominate, again, Kevin Loy, who is the most experienced council member here, so.
Okay. Any other nominations? Okay, so we have two nominations. One is Councilman Henderson, the other is Councilman Loy. And we'll just go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor of Councilman Henderson?
Aye.
I'll have you raise your hands if that's okay.
Sure you can.
I don't know how that works. Can you vote? I don't remember. Yeah,
I don't
you can
think
vote.
you'll need to.
Like you can vote. Okay. So we have 4, and opposed would be 2. I'm going to ask all those in favor of Councilman Loy. And opposed, did you raise your hand as well? Would be 4, okay. So congratulations, Councilman Henderson, you're the new Mayor Pro Tem. Okay, and last item on the list is the Zoom bombing. I had hoped that we could have a conversation regarding this simply because of what happened. I've received a lot of comment from not only people in this area, from Cedar Woolley, but also people from out of the area, which I found fascinating. So we really made some headlines, unfortunately, all for all the wrong reasons. So let me open this up here. I have some options that perhaps might be interesting. In trying to find some guidance, I went to MRSC to see what they had to say about what are the options as a council addressing hate speech, and they provided 3 options, and these are 3 options they provided. Maybe you have another idea. I don't know, maybe you just want to leave it the same, but I wanted to open this up to give you the opportunity to discuss this and decide exactly what you want to do, so we hopefully will not have to deal with this again. But the first option is just to eliminate remote public comment altogether. Of course, we would still have people, they could email or write in, they could still come before us in the council and do that, but we do not have to open up public comment where people are unwilling to turn on their screens, and where they can say absolutely anything heinous that they want to say. So that is one option that we have. The second option is limiting it to just what's on the agenda. I don't know that I like this because I like hearing from the public when it comes to other items, but that is another option where you would just limit the comment to what's on the agenda. And the third, of course, is to take steps to verify the identity of the speaker who's commenting remotely. So in other words, they would have to, with the technology that we have, they would have to actually let our IT department know that they are wanting to make public comment. It would have to be probably no later than noon the day of the meeting, and let them know what their address is or email address is so our IT department can verify it. And then only those who had registered would be able to make public comment that night. So those are 3 options that I presented, but you may have other ideas. So
Madam Mayor?
go ahead, Councilman Cock.
Sorry, do you want to go? or-
No, that's all right. My light was on first, and I think Kevin put his on, and then you did. So if we want to go in order, or however you'd like to do
Sure, I
it.
don't care. Go ahead.
I make the call.
Yeah.
Sorry. So go ahead.
I go? Okay, sorry. I didn't know about the lights. So I just had a few things to say about this. As a former journalist, I'm a huge fan of the First Amendment, and I do strongly support accessibility for members of our community, especially on Zoom. I don't think we should not do Zoom. However, the comments made on the last meeting were reprehensible, racist, anti-Semitic. I'm not sure about getting people to register. One of them said they were Dylan Roof, who is infamous as a mass murderer who shot down a pastor and 9 people at a prayer meeting in a church in Charleston. He's on death row. I doubt he called us. But I do think that we need to have some way when this happens to just end it like we did last time. It comes up, I mean, I'm okay with us just voting. They start using that kind of language. We just cut it off. Like I said, registering, I don't want to turn off Zoom because, there's people in the community that they might be disabled, they can't get here. And I think, and one thing, I'm just going to say this, and I'm trying not to be overly Pollyannish, but I've been on this council for a year, and I've been really impressed by the fact that the mayor and council, at these meetings, we hyper-focus on Cedar Woolley. We don't talk about national and international stuff because it has little or no bearing on our constituents. And so if people want to, call in and say anything they want, that's fine, as long as they're not using such hateful language. The last point I'm going to make is that I did some research on this, and and this is actually my home state of North Carolina, what they were getting hit with are AI-generated bots who are so smart they can duplicate human speech. So that's still another threat to us. Somebody could literally send in 100 during the public comment period. So, you know, I want to keep our control under it, and I have received complaints from members of our community about this. So that's my piece.
All right, thank you. Councilman LaVaca.
Yeah, and I've received some comments as well, and the thought was, of course, the language, as you said, Paul, was unacceptable. The thoughts, though, is that those individuals had no political leaning. They had no, which way or the other. They sounded like kids trying to stir a ruckus online. And it's like egging houses or things that used to be done back in the 50s and 60s and 70s, and this is the newest way of doing it. I would hate to stifle our free speech based upon that. So I like the option that you provided with, limiting the Zoom. And as we would need it in some sort of writing, that if there is language that starts to become out of control on Zoom, then we as a council would take vote to say, okay, we're going to shut this down. And it could be that one person that does it and he ruins it for everybody on Zoom. However, if we limit the speech here in the council, we wouldn't hear, like from the food truck, that wasn't on the agenda, but that's important information to have. It's important from the community to bring forth. Or sometimes we've had community members that are upset about something, maybe not even that we have any power of, the best station, right? And they want to come in here and they want to say their piece, and we should allow them to be able to do so. It's really something that we don't even make that decision on allowing them, that we work for them. So that option that you had about working around the Zoom, making a vote, should we have that again, and just having that in our municipal code. But allowing, if people want to come and say that here in the council, I doubt that they would. I doubt that these kids would ever say anything like that. So that's the feedback I got. That's the dialogue and discussion. People I talked to didn't think that it was like a politically active or people that were very, intent is that's their way of life. They were just stirring up trouble, and people didn't want to lose their ability to come before the council and talk to the council. So thanks.
All right, thank you. Councilwoman Kesty.
I very much like the ideas that are being presented, and I loved how you made a call to stop it. So, I think we did perfect. We could have ended it a little bit sooner. Now we know. We'll just cut it right off and go from there.
All right, thank you. Councilman Henderson.
Thank you. I also think that we had the maturity to do exactly what we did, and we didn't practice it. It wasn't rehearsed. It was just a mature thing. Any restriction of any kind, I'm worried we don't have the public come here and talk nearly enough. And I'm worried that any restrictions we might put on this would make people shy away from even wanting to, call in online because, I got to get my thing in by noon. Dang it, I'm still at work. And I mean, what we did experience was a very cowardly and immature thing. They said a lot of things that were and can be very hurtful to many different people. But we showed our class, and we showed, and they showed that they didn't have any. So
Their lack of.
it's kind of one of those things where I'd just like us to come together as a group and just say, yeah, you're done. And
Okay.
so that's where I'm at.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Loy?
I was thinking when it happened, that type of speech is very easily identified. And if the mayor had a kill switch for that type of thing, that would put an end to it instantly. Because when it was going on, I was thinking, cut it off, but you don't have a kill switch. So I bet you they could hook one up.
Yeah. All right, thank you. Councilman Burns?
I wouldn't be opposed to, I condemn everything that they had to say, first off. And I wouldn't be opposed to thinking of what Councilmember Loy said, us giving the mayor the ability to do a timeout, pause public comment, mute the public comment, and then we decide, are we going to let this keep going? That way, we don't go through 3 people before we finally cut it off. The mayor hears words that are obviously not considered acceptable to the general populace, that aren't to do with anything that's happening in the city. Then you can make that call to mute it and then ask, do you want to continue this? I would be okay with putting something forward like that. I think that would be very challenging for our IT department to verify people in a meaningful way without putting in quite a bit of effort on that part. And I don't really want to restrict the ability for people to make public comment because, as Councilmember Henderson said, we don't hear from the public all that much. My phone's not exactly ringing off the hook. So if somebody wants to come here and talk about an issue that they had, I'd like to hear it even if it's not on the agenda. I know those are restrictions that some places have made, but I don't think I'm there yet. I would like to leave this as open as we reasonably can.
Perfect, okay. And Councilman Cock, I saw you turned your light on again. Do you have another comment?
Yeah, it's, the only advantage to registering is maybe we would know in advance, but I'm just going to get back to what Councilman Burns said. That just places a lot of responsibility on IT in a fast, rapid fashion right before the meeting to try to figure it out. I like the kill switch because as soon as it's coming on, all we do is take, boom, gone. As soon as that kind of stuff happens, and hopefully it won't happen again, but it could.
Councilman Lavaca?
With the kill switch, I would just want to be cautious for sure. I know that some people talk and their native tongue is a cuss word every other word. So they try to be presentable, they try and hold that back, but it's still, they're dropping an F-bomb or they're saying SH, and that's because they're expressing their emotion about a topic, and that's just kind of coming out. And it doesn't mean to. I used to cuss a lot when I was a kid, and I even remember my dad was like, man, you cuss a lot, when I was a teenager. Anyways, so it's just natural. And then I don't cuss at all anymore. And when I hear it, it seems a little foreign. But also, I was just down with my brother, and he does a lot. And I thought, well, yeah, that's just his native tongue. He's just talking, and these just come out. So, we don't want to necessarily hear that, but it is free speech. So if somebody says the SH word because they're expressing something that they got a disgruntledness with, or they drop an F-bomb, I just don't want to be killing the switch on everything. It's what those people were specifically talking about was completely, like Councilman Ellen said, completely immature. It was just kids, with an intent to be disruptive, and they weren't actually expressing any energy over a topic. So.
Councilman Cock?
Yeah, I just had a question. So say I agree with everything that's been said on the kill switch, because I think, I don't think our community needs to hear this stuff again. But say they are the first person, public comment on Zoom, does that mean, can we just kill that person and that person? Oh, we can't? Is that right?
I would defer to Nikki on that, but I believe it's all public comment that we would need the council to end at that point. But there was a question or comment about could it be Zoom versus in person? I don't know the answer to that. Nikki maybe could share that with us if she knows.
Okay, so what I'm concerned about is we cut off public comment. What if there's 3 more people that want to comment? I mean, do they have to wait until the next meeting?
That actually did happen. There was, I think, I knew at least one individual, maybe 2, who they were waiting to make public comment. And they did not have the opportunity to do that because we did end it.
That's a drawback that maybe there's a workaround. I don't know what it is.
And I know that the other cities, there's quite a few cities within Skagit County where they actually do have them register just for that reason, so that they don't have to, it has reduced, I guess, that problem, but that way anybody who's there to make a public comment can. And they have them registered before noon the day of, so it does give IT time to work through it. Yeah. But, yeah. Councilman Henderson.
Jump off of what Councilman Cock just mentioned about there being people who were cut off that wanted to make public comment. If they submitted in writing what they had wanted to say, would we be able to add that to the minutes and the attachments for the meeting, so anyone can go online and read what they were going to say?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that it can certainly, Kelly, you want to answer that? I know you've been doing that.
Yeah, we do that. We post it as other on our website. So there was one submitted for this meeting. It's posted as other. We have, and I can't remember the exact timeline off the top of my head, but we do have a public comment section on our city website that outlines if you want to make written public comment, what's the timeline for council to receive that before the meeting. So we'll send it out. It'll be referenced in your email about the packet if we receive it before the packet goes out.
And then the other question I had about the specific language, and I know a lot, I really have to try hard because that's my native tongue, and it's really difficult sometimes for me, but I do know, like in a setting like in court and stuff like that, you'll get gavelled for saying anything like that. So, and this is a public meeting, and we expect professionalism and a certain decorum in here. And I'd love to see you gavel somebody and give them a warning about, you know, using specific language. And this is a professional setting, and I do think it's a disservice to the rest of our citizens if we allow disrespectful language and we allow it to just happen and happen and happen without, you know, saying, hey, you're in the wrong. You need to clean up your language, especially if it's somebody in person, right? And it's an amount of professionalism that we just expect, and that they expect from us too.
The decorum, you're talking about
Yeah.
the decorum. I do get nervous though, because truly that is free speech. I think where I see the difference between language that may be for some inappropriate, when they're using the F-bomb or the GD bomb or whatever, is when they start saying inappropriate statements, heinous statements about certain ethnic groups, or even about maybe even personal comments about people. You know, for me, there's a clear distinction. Although sometimes it's hard on my ears, I do sit and listen to people who do use
Right.
that language
I
all the
mean-
time. But I to me, that's a distinction. And so, Nikki, I guess I would put that to you, because to me, even if they're using swear words, that's still free speech, is it not?
It is, Mayor, you're correct. And so that's a hard thing to gavel down because, you know, everyone's standards of decorum are different, and utilizing profanity is protected. So I can tell you that this is not my first client that this has happened to, and that my other client that this has happened to in the last year has gone to a system where they ask those who want to make public comment online to, again, advise the city that they want to make public comment on Zoom in advance of the meeting. And they don't allow people to make comment that haven't advised the city in advance. And that has worked quite well since the Zoom bomb.
Nikki, can I say?
Go ahead.
I have a question. Does that approach alleviate this AI bot stuff? Because those aren't humans. They're just sent out to hundreds of sites, and they could be in Eastern Europe or China.
Yes, that should address the issue because Woody holds the keys to the gates, so to speak, and has to let the people speak that wish to speak. And you don't get to speak if you haven't told the city that you want to speak.
Just a follow-up, you know, I'm okay with where we are right now, but if it continues, I think we should revisit that approach.
Madam Mayor?
Councilman Lavaca, yes?
So would we want to, and maybe this is a question for Charlie or Nikki, would we want to have something in writing on our website that says that we reserve the right to cancel the public hearing on Zoom should the language become, you know, racially toned and you know, slanderous or harmful? within the legal terms. And I do appreciate your view on that, Madam Mayor, as far as like language of people swearing in general. When this first came up months and months ago, I did look into it. And there was a gentleman expressing himself before council, but he was using some cuss words. And the mayor got really upset, gaveling down. Council members were really upset. Police marched him out and all that stuff. And he filed a lawsuit and won because it violated his free speech. He wasn't making threats or doing anything. He was just, like you said, everybody's decorum's a little different. So I appreciate that. And yeah, we know, I mean, you're intelligent enough to know when this is becoming slanderous and when this is somebody expressing a grievance. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Councilwoman
So-
Cassidy? Oh,
Did you want a response on that, or?
yes, he would.
Do we need to put something online?
So my recommendation would be no, because I don't want to put anything, I don't want to put a rule in place that says we're going to cut you off if we view your language as slanderous or anything like that. I would rather leave things as they are if you don't want to take the options presented. And when you get to a point where you're being Zoom bombed, do a motion like you did to suspend the rules and stop public comment online. That's how, that was appropriately handled last time, and I would suggest that we don't need to make changes to the rules that might look like content-based rules. At this time, you can make a motion to suspend the same way you did last time, if you don't want to make changes as outlined earlier.
Yeah, I mean, that would be best. And I think months ago when this came up and free speech kind of came up, and that was the ultimate decision, is what we just vote to cancel at the time. So I'm not even sure why we would change anything if we have the ability just to cancel it when it happens. So yeah, if we don't have to do anything, that would be awesome. Thanks.
Well, I think the reason for considering other options is so that the people who are waiting behind the Zoom bombers still, who might have legitimate comments, would still have the opportunity to speak.
Go ahead, Councilman Henderson.
I just had an idea about the order in which, because you get to pick the order in which people are able to talk. So with the online stuff, what we could put out that if you want to get first in line, go ahead and pre-register, and then that way all the people who are legitimate can go through and make their public comment, and then 4 or 5 down the line, then we start getting to the cowards and all this other nonsense, and then we're just like, okay, we're done. But how could we communicate that to the public without saying you must, but you probably would be a good idea if you did, and then you get first in line, you get to talk first.
So just to chime in, that would be a recommendation, not a requirement, and we would provide that as an opportunity for somebody who really wanted to speak. And we don't, I think I found another town, I know several of them around here that you can look at. I'm trying to remember which one it was. It was down south, I think it was Federal Way, and they had I looked at it, it was similar to what y'all were talking about with the registration, but we could make it pretty simple. And we can tell, if I want to talk about the food truck, or I want to talk about, the street trees, and then, you put those people first, and then what Councilman Henderson's talking about, anybody that comes after and doesn't register, you can just end the whole thing. You might still miss somebody, but still you'd give people the opportunity.
Okay, that is an option. So how does council feel about that?
I'm open to that.
Yes, indeed.
Councilman Loy.
I was just thinking that perhaps we ought to wait and see how things go and see if they kind of die off or if they accelerate, or, just take this as a one-off and keep on going and see what happens. And if we start having problems, take care of it then. That way you don't have to worry about cutting out constituents or anything
Right.
until we start having problems.
There was one person who was on Zoom, and I did know what he was going to be addressing, which is why I called on him first. And I'm glad I did, because what he had to say was important to hear. But those that came after him, unfortunately, that ended everything. That ended the public comment for the meeting.
Was that the short-term rental?
Yeah. 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 Councilwoman Kesty?
I'd be open to the suggestion of having it to pre-register if you'd like to, and then we'll just keep going on with the plan as normal.
Okay. Okay. So, okay, you got that. Okay, so as I understand it, we're going to do just a recommendation online. They can register if they so choose. We will call on them first when we do the online, and those that have not registered then will be called on after that.
I just have a clarification.
Yes.
Would you like individuals in the chamber to speak first?
I already made that determination after that, I thought, yeah. Thank you, but I had already made that determination because they were the ones who were shortchanged. Yeah. Okay. Anything else before we close? Okay, I just want to make one comment. So we do have a meeting next week. Normally, we do not have a meeting the third Wednesday of the month, but given that we missed the first because of a holiday, we are going to be having a meeting next week at 6 o'clock here in the chamber. So with that, I hope you all have a great, yes.
Is that a regular council meeting or a workshop?
It will be a regular meeting.
Okay.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night. We are adjourned.